listening to the Lone Star Plate Podcast with your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong.
Have you ever wondered if the leather you buy is really leather? Today we talked to Tanner Leatherstein. He is a local Texan from Dallas here, and he has a leather shop. He's also a famous TikTok star who breaks apart famous leather items, handbags, wallets, things like that, and tells you if it's really leather, you know, stitching, that sort of thing, what to look out for, fake leather, all kinds of stuff. It's amazing. We did a deep dive on leather, and it's absolutely great. We actually took a look at this particular bag here. If you're listening, you know, you can't see it, but it's like a handbag, like a satchel, you know, you throw over your shoulder, that I got in when I was living in Spain, in Granada. So we took a look at that in another bag that I had, and see if it's real leather, right? Talked about it, you know, the smell, the feel, the texture. It was quite fascinating. And there's like this whole underground leather scene, you know, artisanal boutique to, you know, factory, right? Big name brand, that sort of thing. And what are you paying for when you buy these quote unquote leather bags, and what types of different leathers are there? So, and we bust some of the myths about leather making, crafting, that sort of thing. I mean, there's a whole industry and sub-industry to all this. It's quite fascinating. This is a great interview. And again, please check out Tanner's TikTok. Okay, it's just Tanner Leatherstein. We'll have links to all of it down below, and he'll go over that. So let's just jump into this interview, y'all. What do you think? Okay. And as always, don't forget, Lone Star Plate is sponsored by Texas Real Food. Make sure to go to texasrealfood.com, enter in your zip code, and you'll find all the coolest places that serve like organic, artisanal food in your area. And please check out our social media. Guys, please check out our TikTok. Our TikTok is blowing up right now. Okay, we're averaging, I don't know, 300 to 400,000 views a week. Basically, all we do is ask, what do you think? We throw out a topic, show a quick little clip of other podcast, right, that we like, and what do you think? And people just go crazy in the comments, right? So just, you know, different hot topics and subjects that are going on right now. So check it out. So Tanner Leatherstein, let's jump in. Enjoy. All right. Well, welcome to the podcast, the Lone Star Plate. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. We have Tanner Leatherstein. Am I saying that right, or Leatherstein?
Yeah, Leatherstein, that's how I say it, but it's the personal brand, so it both works.
I like it. Is that your real name?
No, it's
okay,
not. It's
I
the
thought that would
brand.
be too perfect. That would be too perfect,
yeah,
right?
that would be too perfect. That would be the name if, you know, if we get to choose our names and know what we're going to do in this world when we came. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, that's how like people got their names before, like blacksmith, right? Like those sort of things, right? Based on
indeed
on what you did. So yeah, that's cool. That's awesome, man. So was there a particular, how did you come up with this name, and were there other names you had potentially, you know, you liked as well, but you never used?
No. So I came up with this because I was tinkering on leather at all times in my life. I was born into this. My family had a tannery, and that was my play. That was my game time growing up. So I got involved very early on, 10, 11 years old, just playing with leather in the tannery. And my entire life became that. It became a life passion, life mission. And you know, the more and more I get into business and entrepreneurial side of things and branding, I was sitting in my MBA classroom one day and tinkering about branding, and this Leatherstein came up as a brand, and I was like, that would be a cool last name. And then Tanner is a name that works here, you know, goes along with it. That would be a personal brand. So
Yep, I love it. No, that's awesome. Yeah, because you tan leather, it's perfect. It's like a superhero name, or like a band. If it was just Leatherstein or Stein or whatever, you know, it'd be like a band, like a heavy metal German band, right? Just like Leatherstein,
yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
I love it. No. I love it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you do. Like this is how you came on our radar, okay? Gosh, it was an article or something about your TikToks and like ripping apart bags and seeing what's in them and seeing if like
what they market the bag as, or whatever the product, the leather as, is really what it was. And it was so interesting. And our team was like, hey, he's from Texas. Let's get him on. Let's see what's going on. So yeah, man, let's talk a little bit about, because you have a business, right? But you started like doing these TikToks, or let take us through like this journey here.
How that came about. So yeah, it was not planned. It was not expected. I was having fun on TikTok. So yes, I do have my own brand. I started Pigai, my logo and thing here, which is my leather crafts brand. And that's like 5-6 years old right now. It's an online leather goods company. It's growing fine, and it's still small. And where I just go around the world, find the leathers I connect to, and then turn them into crafts, and then sell them on my website and Etsy and Amazon. So about 2-3 months ago, I came to a point like I was really done with advertising, the Google ads, the Facebook ads. I didn't get good return and response from what I was putting into it, money and effort wise. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna drop all this advertising stuff. I'm just gonna go on TikTok and have fun. I'm gonna tell people, to the world, what I have been telling to my friends all my life. Like, I've been talking their ear off about leather and how overpriced it is, how it's not worth it if you're not in the status game and all that stuff. I'm like, I want to tell this to the TikTok videos. And I started, having my phone around with me and then just doing this stuff. And a video got viral. I got over 1 million views. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And I wasn't expecting it at the time. I had 1,000 followers. I'm like, okay, this is weird stuff. Let me try to take apart a bag that we just found here. We were not happy with the Brooks Brothers bag. And that got even better response. And people are like, oh, this is very cool, very interesting. Tell me more. Can you do this brand? Can you do that brand? And then we keep doing more and more. And it become more fun for me. And I learn a lot doing this. There's a different satisfaction in, taking things apart and learning what it's made out of, and giving people the perspective on leather, because everybody has this notion of leather is an expensive material, luxury material, and you see all these high-end luxury brands showing you thousands of dollars on the price tags. The automatic thought is there, oh, it must be great leather, that's why it costs so much. It's never the case. It cannot be the case. When we're talking about these regular leathers, the cows and sheep and goats, we're not talking those alligators and snakes and exotics. They're only to a certain extent, and they're not that expensive. They're not cheap, but they're not expensive. So whenever you see a label like that, it's because of the status and the brand lifestyle they're buying into. That's what you're paying for. But some people are confused. Some of them are totally aware of it, but some of them are confused. And it seemed like what I've been doing with different brands resonated with those people, and it helped them understand it a little bit better. And it's working for everybody, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, man, I checked out the TikToks for sure. It's such a great, format to throw them out, because it's so interesting. Honestly, just the format, the idea of, here's something, I'm gonna, break it down, what's in it, and you take it from there, right? Like, that's just such a great thing.
Exactly.
And I like the idea of people potentially sending you in things. I think I saw a TikTok where someone sent you something or something. That's cool. That's really cool. Hey, man, I bought something. Almost if you could like even, become like, I verify your leather for you. Like, is this, you know what I mean? Like, like they do the diamonds and jewelry and that sort of thing, and anything really, right? They have people that verify antiques, or right, they're experts on stuff. They give value to things like Pawn Star, that sort of thing. I love this leather thing,
Exactly.
because I've never heard of that. Somebody who, you know what I mean, who could help you with the leather. So
Yeah.
that, honestly, it's such a cool it's such a cool thing. Before we go any further, I really just want to define leather real quick for people, because I don't even think when people hear leather, I think you've just heard it your whole life, and you may not even know what leather is. Like, what
Right.
technically
Like,
is
there's a
leather?
super lack of information in the space, and that's why all this confusion, and
Sure.
overpricing can can be done.
Overpricing,
So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
They count on your lack of knowledge in the area to overprice you, right? Because you don't know,
exactly,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. They take advantage of that. Yeah, so let's just define leather. Like, what is leather exactly?
So leather, in a sense, it needs to come from an animal and a living
Okay.
being, right? The
Yep.
true leather is coming from an animal, and 98% of all leathers we use today is coming from main four animals that are a source of meat for humanity. Cow being the biggest percentage, probably close to 85, 90. And then the lambs, the goats, and the pigs. So these
Okay.
four being the main meat source, the leather, the hide is a byproduct of this meat harvesting process, and it's a garbage at that point. You know, if you don't touch it, if tanneries don't take it, or you don't salt it, you don't dry it, it putrefies itself in 2-3 days. It's unusable. It's an infectious disease source at that point if not managed well. And
Oh,
at that
wow.
point, tanneries,
Okay.
exactly, like, you know, if what happens if you leave the meat outside 3 days,
Yeah.
you know, it
I mean, it
becomes all the
makes sense.
bacteria, worms. It's
Totally,
the same
totally
thing.
makes
It's a flesh
sense.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So the tanneries take that hide and then clean it, tan it. The tanning is basically permanent preservation of that meat going forward. So it doesn't produce the bacteria and putrefaction process anymore. We stop it. So it's a stable material. It becomes a fabric that we can use and turn into things at that point. So that's what leather is. And that other 2% is the exotics, again, coming from
Okay.
animals, but
Sure.
not for meat animals like snakes and alligators and other stuff.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, my cousins used to have like snake boots and alligator boots and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff growing up. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's no, that's interesting. I didn't know that. See, I didn't even know all that stuff about leather. Honestly, I didn't know that stuff
Yep.
about the yeah, that's so interesting.
It's
Um,
one of the earliest forms of upcycled economy, I think it is, because it's a garbage that we take and give it a second life through this tanning process.
That's a good
So an
point. You're
upcycle.
talking about just our ancestors using it, right, in a way, a byproduct from the animal in a post way, like using it in their daily life, as opposed to just consuming what came and discarding the rest. Yeah, that's a great point. Honestly,
Yep.
that helped us evolve and helped us stay warm and helped us survive
Indeed.
the harsh, right, environments around the world. So, absolutely, in a way, leather saved humanity in a lot of ways, right? That's kind of crazy
Yeah.
to think about. Yeah, there's that crazy scene in The Revenant, the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, where he gets inside the horse and uses like
Yep.
basically the leather, right? The carcass. Is that
Yeah.
real? I mean, I know you're not a
Well,
wildlife expert, but like, does that seem like you could? Is leather that warming? I guess it must be,
oh yeah,
right?
it
We're
was
talking about it.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
It's fat and meat structure, so it there is a certain level of insulation capacity on leather. That's why, you know, the living beings develop that the surface, which is the skin, to preserve the heat and protect and organize the things inside the body, put them in a shape. Otherwise, you know, you will just fall apart, right? Your
sure.
skin is keeping things together and putting a nice outlook. Otherwise, you will look like a skeleton.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, it's just protecting towards the other side impact while insulating your heat inside.
Sure. You know, it is kind of interesting that leather has become, like you said, this quote unquote high end product, considering its origins of where it comes from, right? Leather
Right,
comes from just from an everyday
right.
person killing an animal and I got a leather or whatever, right? So that is interesting right now that it's considered this high end product where even according to your TikToks, which is also interesting, you break down the price to like value and then what they send. That's so fascinating, right? Like, let's dig into that a little bit more. As far as that goes, one, why are brands doing that? Is it because of what we talked about earlier? They count on a customer's lack of knowledge so they can overprice? Is it because they count on just leather in the social status being a high-end good, right? They don't even need it to be. They just, well, people think it is, so we can sell it at that price. Or is leather just that good a thing that, you know, it's, I don't know. Or could it be made readily available and cheaper for people? I mean, I don't know. Where do we at with that?
So most of those things you said play in this entire thing. You know, it's not only one reason behind this, but all of them coming together, creating this ecosystem that can make it work. And my only point is to clarify a portion of it so you can decide how much to pay if you're only in it for the leather piece of it, because there's absolutely the status and the lifestyle piece that comes with the brands, and it's worth some money. You know, it's a need in the
That's a good
society
point.
too.
Yeah.
A lot of people want it, a lot of people need
Yeah.
it. That's why those brands become the brands they are today. They provide that service. But the clarification point needs to be made, and at least in my opinion here, is they are in the business of selling you the status, not the leather. The price is not about the leather, it's about the status. But some of our are confused because historically leather has been this status symbol. You know, even back in, you know, 500 years ago, where there was no modern tanneries, the tanning was a very difficult and slow craft. You know, you just have to make everything by hand, put hides in the barrels and keep them there for 2 months until they tan themselves and all that stuff. So it was a slow process. Very few people knew how to do it good, and very little leather can be done in, you know, in service to people. So which made it expensive. And the people who had status, you know, these warriors and the lords and people start dressing with leather, using leather crafts, then that become a status symbol, which is a historical natural evolution of leather. But today, like in the past 100 years, we have modern tanneries. We fastened that process. We perfected our chemical process for it. We know how to make leather super quick, super efficient, super good quality consistently in really big numbers, because we consume a lot of meat. There's a lot of raw hides available, and these tanneries can really turn it into fabrics very quickly. So it's not that rare anymore. You can just go out in the market, you can find any leathers you want. Again, we're talking the cow hides, the most common things we use, starting from $2 a square foot, going up to maybe $12 to $15 a square foot in the maximum level. On average, you're not going to spend more than $5 a foot. And given if you're talking about a wallet, it only uses 2 square foot of leather, needs $10 of leather. If we're talking about a bag, handbag, the biggest one can consume about 8-10 square foot of leather. Now you're talking about $50, $60, $70 worth of leather. And it cannot be more expensive than that at this point in today's age. So I want to give this perspective to people. It's definitely a status symbol. It was all the time, but now it's not that expensive. Leather is not cheap, but it's not that expensive that some people may think, because of seeing those high prices. That high prices is always about the brand and the status you're buying. And again, I respect those brands. I respect that need as well, but it is not
Sure.
about leather.
Yeah, no, that's a great distinction. And also just the design of the product, right? Like that also comes into play. You shape it in such a way that, right, any product is made from certain materials, right? So that's actually a great point. We don't base the price off the material of the thing, to not to the
Yeah.
whole extent. You know, it is
Yeah.
the design and the status and the brand. And you're right. That's a great point for sure. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. I was going to ask you, like, what you said you repurpose leather and turn it into stuff, right, at your company. What does that mean exactly? Like you take, what does that mean exactly?
No, we don't repurpose. Basically, like the raw hides. What I mean is, leather industry is kind of repurposing that. You know, otherwise would be garbage. Raw hide turns into fabric, and then it turns into shoe and wallet and stuff like that. What I do with Pigai now is, previously my earlier ages in the tannery, I took the raw hides and making them into leather, and then we were selling it to crafters. But now with Pigai, in the past 5-6 years, I buy the leathers, I go around the world, I find the leathers that I really love, you know, super specialty articles, tanneries. They make very unique stuff. Outside of these mass market standardized leathers, I don't connect to those. I just like the natural feel of the leather. And I turn them into wallets and bags and belts in my workshop in
Oh,
Turkey.
wow. Oh,
So and then sell them online here on my website. So my point is to provide my take on how leather should be, how we can experience leather at its most natural and best form, and then make it affordable, make it accessible so more people can enjoy this. You know, this is not a mysterious material anymore. You can really find this in plenty quantities and make it in a efficient way. I have an online business model. We make everything in house, and then I directly sell it to the customer. So that's why I don't need to pay the rents to those stores. I don't need extra steps that other brands and older business models have. So I have a better advantage of offering this at a more affordable price point, so more people can enjoy the leather the way I like it, in its natural artisan form.
oh man, that's so cool. Wow, what a great little get. God, there's this whole like thing to leather, right? Like, that's so interesting. God, I have like all of a sudden what you just said made me have like 20 other questions, to be honest with you, but I can't, oh my goodness.
Good.
Well, because I'm just thinking of like high-end leather, like what's the most, I guess like it's kind of like an art of some sense. So I guess you're saying there's leather that comes from a certain tannery, from a certain place, and maybe it's been aged and held, and it's like, is there stuff like that? Is there that kind of leather?
Oh, absolutely. So leather is a huge, wide, deep world. You know, every tannery specializes in a certain type of source hide. You know, some people are just specialized in the cow hide tanning. Some people are lamb experts, goats. Some
Yeah,
of them doing horse leather. Some of them doing deer skins, kangaroos. So there are very specific articles, and each leather requires different recipes, different tanning, different crafting in the tannery side of things before they can turn into fabrics. So and depending on what you're going to do with them, like you're going to make a shoe, then the tanning is different. It's a different recipe, different cooking. If you're going to make a
ah,
jacket, it's a different cooking, you know, because
okay,
you need a thinner one, softer one if you're going to make a jacket. But if you're going to make a shoe, you're going to need a thicker one, less stretchy one, more durable and stable. So it highly depends on what you're trying to do. And there is a bunch of depth in the finishing of leather as well, how it's going to look. Do you want a rustic look? Do you want a look that's more colorful? Do you want a shiny look? Is it going to be exposed to water and elements? Do you want it to get dirty? Do you want it to stay clean, right? All
sure,
these are things that goes into the mix of those things. And where I make my distinction here is like the bigger mass brands, they kind of opt in for standardization.
okay,
So leather is a non-standard material. Like everybody has a different skin. Every animal has a different skin. Like it has life marks, the bush scratches, the bite marks from the bugs, and then the skin diseases the animal had, the climate, the rain, everything makes an impact on the rawhide, and it reflects on the grain. So
wow,
to
that's
to
so
to make
cool.
it readily available, yeah, to make it readily available to everybody, you need a process to, kind of get rid
Sure.
of all these imperfections.
Get rid
And
of the characteristics of it, basically, of
right,
it. Yeah,
and
that's
then
interesting.
make a print on top of it that looks very standard, so you can make a million of the same looking product.
I
The
see.
base is leather, but there is a thick finish on top that it cuts my connection to the leather. I don't see that
Sure,
character anymore. I don't
sure,
like it, but the big brands have to do it that way for
sure.
standardization purposes.
Okay.
The way I
Wow.
like it is you take the hide, you minimally finish it to see those imperfections, grains, each piece is unique, but then you can't opt in for the wide pool of leathers available to you because not every leather is clean enough to do that. You gotta opt in for that top 5% of the cleanest hides you can find, so you can finish this pieces originally beautiful themselves. You just accentuate that natural beauty and then turn it into a craft. It's a different ball game, but I can't make millions of it because there is not enough leather available in that
Sure,
sense. It's
sure.
harder, and that's what I'm trying to do with my brand. And a lot of small craftsmen are doing the work I do like this because they connect to that leather. They want to work with that leather. They don't enjoy the standardized pieces that brands use.
What a great explanation. Like, thank you for saying like that. I didn't know that. It's like boutique stuff. It's like food, right? It's like there's mass produced food that loses its right. I'm a chef. I come from the food world. So like I totally understand what you're saying. Like I didn't know that about like that's so cool. It makes sense though once you're saying it. Like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense what you're saying. I love the idea that there's these boutique leather shops that are doing it like their way, and like that's so cool to me.
There are
And getting pieces
hundreds.
from, yeah, and getting pieces from there, right? Like it's like getting it from an artist who's taken the time with that, right, to keep the character. Man, that's so cool. Like I just didn't, something I want to mention before I forget, because I've wanted to bring it up for the last 15 minutes. I just think like, okay, I'm from the food world, right? Veganism gets brought up a lot, and this argument of why are you wearing animal skin? But really, you just really explained it at the beginning without even trying to. They're okay. These, tanning, they're not going out and killing animals and taking just the skin here. They're taking stuff that's going to go bad anyway and doing something with it, which is actually, in my mind, honoring the animal more than just letting that go to waste. I mean, not intentionally trying to honor that. You see what I'm saying? Like that animal was going to die for our food, so why let that go? Even become a potential health hazard, which I didn't know. Right? Like that makes total
Oh,
sense, right?
exactly.
So that's a great
Exactly.
point, and I really want to bring that up because people that are working with tanning and leather and stuff did not. Well, I mean, like this idea that they're murderers, and I just where does this is crazy to me. So I really want to just nip that in the bud. And any vegans who are listening to this, if there's a different side to that you see or a hole in that argument, please let us know, because I'd be curious in the comments what you would say about that, right? To that point. I get you as a vegan, you don't want people to eat meat, right? I'm talking to vegans right now. As a vegan, you don't want to eat meat. Okay, I get that. But this idea that you would then, rain fire down on people who are working with leather, if you had knowledge of where it comes from, right? It's a totally different animal, no pun intended. So yeah, I hope that's okay for me to make that point. I think it's kind of
Absolutely.
necessary, to be
No,
honest with
I
you.
think it is necessary. And, like it's a life choice. We respect however you want to live your life,
Sure. Great
vegan,
point.
vegetarian,
Great
whatever
point.
way you go. Like,
Absolutely.
we don't want them to eat meat, and that's what make you comfortable. That's why the way you go. But it's leather being an upcycled material, and the 98% of leathers we use because of it's a byproduct of the meat production. There are this 2-3% of exotics and other skins, the snakes. The snakes are not killed for their meat, but in that space it might get a little iffy, because now, because snake skin is valuable, some people may be hunting the snake because of the
Sure.
skin.
Sure.
So
That's a valid
when
argument. You're right.
you
That part of it could be, yeah, you're right.
this is regulated very heavily in the leather industry. There is an organization called CITES, CITES. They
Okay.
are organizing the trade of exotic species skins, the global trade of it. You cannot move one skin without a CITES certification from one country to another.
Oh,
Every skin
wow.
is tied to a certification that makes it legally harvested. And there are different reasons people harvest animals. Like snakes are invasive species in Indonesia maybe, and the government has programs to kill certain number of snakes every year so it doesn't become dangerous for the population and all that stuff. So but there are illegal forms of it too, for
Sure.
some furs, the foxes and chinchillas. That's where it gets a little bit iffy in the ethical side. And the main leather industry doesn't have much to do with it. It's very specialized niche side of the leathers, is furs and exotics. Then you might be really careful of how it's being harvested. And responsible companies always put forward those documentation and the responsible practices they follow to get those skins.
No, it's like this is crazy. It's like it's like blood diamonds in the black market, right? Like, what's the craziest sort of leather thing you've ever heard of? Like animal or something, you know what I mean? Like, what's the craziest thing you've ever heard of?
Like cruelty wise,
No,
or
just like a weird animal that was made into something, right? Like what's the craziest animal or exotic animal or I don't know that, people might find
well,
interesting. I don't know.
craziest one, I heard dog skin. I've never seen or touched a
Really?
dog skin, and I was like how, why, like, right, the dogs are like, pets, and nobody
Yeah,
eats them,
I
like,
got two
as
right
I would
here.
know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Trust me, their
here's
ears
a
went up. They were like, dog skin.
I
Wait,
was like,
what?
what? No, 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 that's
Not
no
me.
good, don't use
Yeah.
it. So I lived in China for about like little almost a year, around 2007, and I've seen some local markets where they eat interesting animals, like, and dogs was part of it. So that's why I'm like, maybe that's where the meat is coming from, and then somebody does something with the skin. I heard it's insanely strong, like, the tear resistant is one of the top notch in the leather world. I've never seen one, but I kind of made the connection when I saw like dog meat being eaten in
Sure.
China at some local markets. I was like, but that was the craziest story. I still, to date, I'm, having difficulty
Wow.
believing.
I'll be honest, I was not expecting that answer, and I know people listening or that are going to watch this are not going to expect that either. I was
That doesn't
expecting,
sound good.
yeah, well, no, I just mean like I was expecting like I don't know, some like I don't know, some like weird African animal, from out in the rare and but no, that's actually kind of interesting to be honest with you. There's a more
Yeah.
interesting answer when you don't expect
Yeah.
it, in my opinion. Yeah, wow, that's nuts. What about like
And
for sale out on the market? Like, have you seen some, like, what's the most expensive leather piece, or do you know stuff like that? I don't know. Is that knowledge
yeah,
available?
so
Like,
it is available, but you kind of like, you need to go into a search for it. And I was last month, I went to Italy for the leather fair. The biggest leather event happens in Milan twice a year. It's called Linea Pelle, and all the big leather guys are there. All the fashion brand artisans, come together, just catch up. And I was actually, one of my questions going there was like, what is the most expensive leather I can get to make something? So I found this exotic exhibitor, and there was a certain species of an alligator family. So I can't pronounce the name. I forgot. Like, it starts with P, but I have to go back to it and check it. So he showed me a skin about like 3 square foot. It's pretty small alligator, and it says this is the most valuable of the alligator family, and pretty much the most valuable of the leathers you can find so far. About €1,000 for a 3 square foot of
wow.
animal skin like that. So yeah, that is as expensive as I have heard so far. And if you make a wallet out of it, just the leather cost of it is going to be somewhere around $1,000. And crafting that thing, and then the
Sure.
markups and all that, probably that should market about 3, 4, 5 grand minimum out of the artisan's hand.
Yeah.
And if these big brands take it and make something with it, it's going to go into 20s, 30s. Sometimes with Hermes, they use those kind of leathers, and the bags go over $100,000.
That's correct. That's just like, that's nuts. That's like so nuts. Wow. That's so crazy. That I understand. 1,000 for the piece. That's actually less than I thought. I thought you were going to say way
Yeah.
more. $100,000 for this. Little piece of leather. It's rare or whatever. Do people hold on to leather like, oh, this is from the 1800s and you can make a bag from it? Is that possible
Oh,
to
I haven't heard or seen that practice, almost like holding, aging, or collecting leather as its fabric form. I haven't, but I've seen pretty old pieces of leather that aged into beautiful
Sure.
colors, shapes, and patina. So one thing, like a certain and popular way of, in the market these days at least, vegetable tanning is sounds good, and it's a certain um, craftsmanship to it. At its best, it's made in Italy, in Tuscany region. There's this like old tanneries. They have good recipes. I work with some of them. vegetable tan leather feels different, looks different than the more most readily available common leather, chrome tan leather, and that has this characteristic of getting darker and shinier with the exposure of light and oxygen. So once you make a bag out of this leather today and you let it be or use it 30 years, you could start with a tan color, like tan color, you can end up with a dark brown leather bag.
Sure.
It goes that dramatic. So I've seen pieces like that, but I've never seen anybody like buying a wine and holding on to it for years kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen
Yeah.
that.
Listen, someone needs to start doing that. Start selling aged
Maybe.
leather. I'm telling you, it's a new. You don't think leather geeks and people that have money that are rich wouldn't get into that? It's a new way of, I was in the wine industry. I worked for managed wine bars for a long time, and I know how people would get for wine for no reason, really. Just they got the
Right.
money and anything interesting. Oh, what's that? This, that? I'll pay for it. I'll get it. Give me it. Just all kinds of nutty stuff. Like, rich people got money to spend on these weird things. But that's also kind of cool. I don't know. I don't even know if it's possible. Would it deteriorate? You'd obviously have to maintain it well, like you do, like meat when they age meat and stuff. Same sort of way, right? Like, anyway, I don't know. That's a separate thing. But look, that could be interesting. You could start that.
It could be, yeah.
Right, that could be interesting. Look, did you bring? I don't know if you brought like a bag or something, or I don't know. I didn't want to like
Well,
suggest
I have one
anything.
here that I'm going to cut up today. Actually, I'm going to make a video for tomorrow. It's one of the requests that we got. Like we have a lot of requests, a long list of brands now we wanted to check. So we have Pauline. It's one of the, I think, newish brands from Europe. They claim to be, affordable luxury, and we just got one of their bags. I can bring it to show you.
Yeah, can we
if
see
you
it?
want
Just
me
for I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
So here's a bag. I think Pauline, they call this numero uno, number one.
Right on.
It's made out of 3 different leathers. The main body is a textured cowhide. It's listed that way. There's little accents. It's full grain cowhide, just grain. This is more the one I like. And the cap here, the cover is suede. Again, the calf skin suede, which is the flesh side of the leather.
I was going to ask, what is suede exactly? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so it's the inside of it.
Like, right, this shiny side is the grain side, which is the outer facing side of the skin, right? And inside, where that you separated from the flesh, that's the fluffy and velvety texture. That's the suede side. So in cowhide is really thick. Normally, I'll tell it in millimeters, about 5-6 millimeters thick in its full thickness in the tannery, and we cut it in the middle. So imagine like a cake. You just cut it in the middle. You make it 2. The top layer has the grain, and then the bottom that falls down has both sides flesh now, which is made into these suede pieces.
Got it.
So
wow,
basically, one leather turns into 2.
Yeah.
And that's why the term full grain and top grain is made out of that upper side of the leather, which has the original grain and it's more valuable. And the droppings is the suede side, which then some companies take it and make a plastic cover on top of it, make it look like a grain. They call it genuine leather, which is that the secondary grade man-made surfacing, which falls apart very quickly. It's basically the
wait, what? Genuine leather is like this scam, basically. Oh my God. I didn't know that.
It's an insanely misleading term in the leather industry used.
Yeah, you hear genuine. I mean,
right?
look, they do that in food too, right? I've talked about this on the podcast all the time. Organic and cage free. Right here in the States, they use these terms that don't mean anything. They're just to sell you, right? It sounds the same thing. Like genuine leather, you think, oh, the real deal. Here we go. I'm getting the real deal. That's so. Oh my goodness!
So yeah,
the sad
part
funny.
is a lot of people.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah. a lot of people think genuine it must be the good thing. And the
Sure.
sad part is there's a lot of companies practice this to deceive people, make you think it's the real good deal of leather. And some of the companies don't know this misusage, and they still use genuine leather term to genuinely mean it's genuine leather. You see,
That's funny.
it's so crazy. When you see genuine leather, it could be actually a good stuff that company didn't know it was misused,
Oh my
or it could be
God.
something that's taken advantage of, taken a suede and then made it look like this by plastic finishing on top, and they just call it genuine leather because the base material is leather, and legally they can call it genuine leather.
Wow. That's like, so yeah, like for the consumer, what do you do? What does a consumer do if they're trying to buy leather and make sure that, like, what should they be concerned about when they're buying a leather, jacket or shoe? Like, what should be their first concern? The quality, what it says? I don't know.
So
You know,
if you like leather and if you're in it for leather, the first thing I always recommend is leather is a feeling thing. You have to go in with your feelings. You forget about what you know or don't know about leather. You just don't say to yourself like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't understand
yeah,
leather."
yeah.
Everybody understands
Okay.
leather. You just look at it, okay? Once you look, you got to look for the imperfections and inconsistencies. Leather is a non-standard material unless it is standardized by people. Yeah. So if you see the patterns, grains, and the scratches and imperfections, you're looking at the leather that's probably minimally finished. Probably it's a good leather. It's at least artisan style leather. Then you touch it. That leather has a pleasant touch, almost like you touch your hand and then a human
Yeah,
skin, and then you
sure.
touch the plastic. It's a different feel, right? The plastic is
Yeah,
dead. Like anything
yeah,
plastic doesn't give you the same live vibe. Leather has the
sure.
same thing. It's a pleasant touch. Then the third is the smell. I go for the smell, usually an earthy smell, a leathery smell. There is
Yeah,
not one leather smell. You can smell various different ranges, but usually a pleasant smell. If it smells very oil, petroleum, chemical derivatives things, you might be looking at either super heavy finished leather or a plastic fake alternative. And the last thing I say, read. Like, just, you are shopping online, you read the description. You're shopping in a store, you read what they say about the leather. So any company, any brand, any artisan that uses good leather, they can't talk enough about the leather. They will always mention, oh, it's from Italy, it's vegetable tan, it's the calf skin, it's aniline finished, it's full grain, it's top grain. They give you all these like terms that specifies the beauty of the leather they use, and they're so passionate about it. They want to communicate that across. You got to look for those keywords. If you see those, you're on the right path. But if you see super minimal stuff, genuine leather, cowhide, okay, we're not sure, they don't want to talk much about it. Usually the reason is there's not much to talk about it.
sure. That's what a great insight. That's such a great insight, honestly. What a great insight. I'm so glad I asked. Wow.
Thank you.
What a
Thank
great
you.
insight. Yeah, what a great, that's really, that's like makes so much sense. It's exactly what I wanted to hear. Not like, okay, look for, if it says this, then this means it's such a, you got to get in on it. You got to, get to know it a little bit. And yeah, I love that. That's so cool. So look, this bag here that I have is it's from Granada. So I used to live in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Granada is in the southern part of Spain, across the Mediterranean from Morocco. And in Granada, they sell a lot of Moroccan leather goods, and supposedly
Yeah.
that's where this came from, like this leather piece. And it smells, the leather in Spain, and my family's from Mexico, like the leather that I get, like Mexico City, and it is so different from the leather they offer in the States. And the biggest thing you said was smell. That's the biggest difference for me, is the smell from these places as opposed to the smell here in the States from leather. But like this smells like leather, like it smells, like leather, right? Like, and like the inside of this piece, look, like it's kind of like, let me see if I can get it. Like it's unfinished, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like
Yep.
that's the inside. You see what I'm saying? Like there's no, I mean,
So
yes, they put this material for the because there's a bag, like a, you know what I mean, to whatever, but
Pocket,
the
yeah.
back end, yeah, pocket, but the back end looks just unfinished, right?
Exactly. So that unfinished side is the like concrete proof that you're looking at the leather, because in
Okay.
backside of the grain is the flesh, it's the suede, and that's what you're looking at. And the problem with bigger brands, actually, it's not a problem.
Because I bought this
The
off the
craft.
street. No big brand, right?
Yeah,
Just a guy on the street. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? I mean,
yeah.
so
So those are the simpler crafts. You know, they don't go for linings and very complicated techniques to hide the flesh side of it. And that's easy to tell it's leather, and I can tell from a mile, like that's all leather, the way it rolls and you touch it. So
wow,
you
that's
see
so
the
cool.
inside online items, it's easier to tell. You can check the inside. If there's no lining, you can see that, or you can look at the edges sometimes, like some
Okay.
edges, if they're not painted, you can see that leather and suede side in the edges. You try to twist it back on those, like the
I see what
corners,
you mean.
try to
Yeah.
see the bag. That's another way you can tell fake leather from real leather, because the fake leather will have a fabric backing that looks like little fibers go this way, and you will see like little fiber yarns in the backside of it, which means they use the fabric base and put a plastic surface that looks like leather, which is called PU leather, polyurethane, fake leather. So looking at the back is a good way. But in bigger brands, they always go for complicated designs where there's a lining inside and all that. You don't have access to the backside, so it's hard to
Sure.
see the back.
Sure. Yeah, they hide it in a sense, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. You know, make it like, oh, it's a design choice, but really, there's probably a let's hide some material choice. Um,
Or
I think,
it could be both. Like, you know,
yeah, it
the
could be
the
both.
lining is right. It's a difficult technique. To be honest, like this bag has all the complexity, bells and whistles, and it's not easy. You know, my garage craftsman level guys cannot put this together because it requires a lot of skills and techniques. Also, it helps in a different sense. Like if you're using a fashion piece, you want a lining, so the suede side may give some dust and leather pieces on your stuff. You put it into the bag, you may not want it, so you want a cleaner experience. That's why they line the inside at those, for those reasons as well.
No, that's a great point. And actually make a great point about like craftsmen and the tanners, right? Like you've got people who
Right,
then take the leather and all I would describe it to people listening or watching is just like you got a butcher and then the chef, right?
right.
Same sort of scenario there. Basically, the butcher
Yep,
is the tanner and the chef is the craftsman who takes that leather and makes it into the thing you're going to buy it. Right?
exactly.
And he'll then decide the metal pieces to add and what quality, and I guess any other secondary ingredients, right, quote unquote, or materials, right, he's going to use. Oh, that's so fascinating. So
Absolutely.
do you do any little craft? And you said you do some crafting as well, right? You do a little bit of both.
Yeah. I do the design work. 5 6 years ago when I started this, I was in Chicago at the time, and it was in my spare bedroom. I was sewing and making everything in-house, in hand, by myself and with my wife.
That's
I
awesome.
was selling on Etsy, and now 6 years down the line, I have a workshop in Turkey where I'm originally from, and everything I designed and approved goes there, and everything is made by my team of artisans there, and then they ship it to me here in Dallas. It's in my warehouse, the smaller crafts. We do personalization for some of our items, you know, put your names, initials, and then ship it from here. And if it's a bigger item like a bag, it ships directly from my Turkish crafting shop, to save time and money on shipping, to reflect more of the savings to the customer. So
Sure, rather than shipping it to you and then you ship it to them. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
No, I love that. I actually worked, I love that you're from Turkey, man. I worked with a lot of guys from Turkey in restaurants here in Dallas. So much love. They used to call me Kanka. Kanka, what's up?
Kanka, yeah, it's buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, man. So shout out to Ismail, Barack, Hassan. Ibrahim, he goes by Ryan now. He decided to change his name. He's like, I want a more white name. That's what he said. I want a more white name. He goes, people get my name wrong all the time. Ibrahim,
Right.
yeah, right? They, you know. couldn't get it right. He's just like,
There's
just call me
versions, yeah.
Ryan. Yeah, he goes, just call me Ryan. It's like, so
That
Ryan,
sounds
yeah,
light
shout out to
enough,
those
yeah.
guys. Yeah, yeah. Shout out to those guys. Great guys, man. Some of the best guys I ever worked with, man, from Turkey, dude. Just some of the hardest working people, dude. My God, they were just the most amazing people. They got restaurants now here in the state, here in Dallas. So actually, you're here in Dallas. Check out a place called Farah. It's what he calls, it's my friend Barack's restaurant.
Oh,
It's
I
Texas.
haven't heard of that.
He calls it Tex-Med. So like Texas Mediterranean, right? Bringing some of the Turkish flavors to sort of Texas cuisine. It's great. There, it's in
What's it called?
Farah,
Farah.
Ferah. It's there in I want to
Okay.
say like Frisco area, and then he's got another location, but I can't remember. But it's here in
No
Dallas.
way.
Definitely
I
check
live
it
in
out.
Frisco.
Yeah, man, go check it out. Tell him I sent you,
Maybe I check it
Farah.
out tonight. Yeah.
Dude, please, absolutely. Go see Barack. You guys will hit it off, obviously. Hassan will be there in the back. Worked with those guys for years at a place called Samar here in Dallas. Shout out to Stephen Piles. Yeah, anyway. So, look, this bag also is the same sort of scenario, but see, this has a lot of lining.
It's a
So
lining.
I
Yeah.
can't see what's going on with the bag, if that makes sense. Like even on any part of it, I can't get to the whatever, but same thing. I bought this in Granada, right, from Morocco. It's the same like vendor, basically the same street where you buy all this
Right.
stuff. And it has the same smell. It smells exactly the same. It even
So,
looks the same. So I don't know. I
right.
mean, I would assume
It
yes,
could be
but
made out of similar same leathers. Yeah, I can see.
get it.
And it's
Yeah,
probably, you're right, the Morocco. So what you can do here, you see the edge covering, like on
right here.
edge? Yeah, you can try to open the back
Oh,
of it. Yeah, you can
yes,
see the
you're
back
right.
right
Here,
there. You
here.
see?
Yep.
Let's
Let me
always
see if I can.
go for, yeah.
Can you
Yep.
see?
Those are the
Yep.
places I go to twist it back to see the back of
Dude,
it.
good call, bro. You're right. You just told me that too. Why didn't I do that? And you know what's funny? Look right here. This is also another great sign for people. Is this imperfection in the cutting, right? Like right
Yes,
there,
yes.
because then I can see down to right there of
Yep.
the suede or whatever. But also just that imperfection, the cutting kind of lets me know maybe a little bit by hand this is being made.
Yeah, most likely, yeah, those are all handmade, and that
Dude, it's
feels
so
like the
good. I've had
Moroccan
it 10
stuff.
years, bro. I've had it 10 years. Look how well it's like. I use it all the
Yep.
time. It
It'll
kind
just
of
get
feels like it's
shinier
gonna
and
part
darker.
apart. I'm not gonna lie, like the strap feels like it's gonna fall apart at any moment, and it's felt like that since I bought it, but it never does. It just
Yeah.
hangs on, you know what I mean? It just like it's crazy. Like this piece, it kind of like, you
Oh, I
know,
see. They made a patch over there to connect two pieces. Yeah, that part is, yeah,
okay, that's
yeah.
what that is.
Because
Okay,
the strap was not long enough, they put two straps together to make it
sure.
longer, but the
Yep.
backside
Oh
will
yeah.
fold it together for a while. Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
this little piece they like threw in, and then yeah, you're right. It's got this seam there.
The
Okay, I
patch.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, man. I got you, man. You just helped me learn so much about these bags. Because I'll be honest, I was like originally, are they real leather? I think I know. Yeah, I've been buying leather in Mexico for such a long time. My family used to like buy leather and then get boots made, not themselves, but they would have a place make it, and then they'd sell those boots. I remember going down to like Guatemala and Honduras with my cousin Chucho. Shout out to Chucho to go buy the leather to bring it back to Mexico so he could make the boots, right? And then sell it to all the Americans up here who were like, "Oh, imported leather, I'll pay all this big money for it," sort of taking advantage of that, same sort of
Yeah.
thing, which is interesting. But yeah, man, this is so fascinating to learn about all of this. Is there anything I didn't mention that I don't want to keep you too much longer here? So make sure there's anything we didn't talk about that you wanted to quickly say. We'll definitely let people know how to watch all your videos and how to keep in contact with you. But I don't know, anything you wanted to say to the
Um,
people before we go here?
I would say if you're in it for leather, when you're looking at leather products or you're leather shopping, you have a better chance of experiencing artisan leather. You know, those leathers that you can look and see, you can smell, you can touch and feel. If you go with smaller craftsmen, you do a quick Google search if there's any local shops making leather in your area. Check out those. Etsy has a lot of good stuff. You know, you can check those little mom and pop shops or like passionate artisans. They work with these kind of rare leathers to give you something unique experience, and you're going to pay a lot cheaper, a fair price. If you are going for big brand names, you know, you might still get good leather. Definitely, you're going to get good craftsmanship, but you're going to most likely get a standardized leather that there's a lot of plastic on top and not much feeling going into you anymore. Some brands charge fair prices. You know, I out of my reviews, Fossil is doing a great job. Coach is pretty good brand, good leather selections and all that stuff. Not exaggerated prices. But if you're gonna go to high-end luxury, there's not much about leather over there. It's all about the status and the lifestyle you're buying into. As long as you know and that's what you want to buy, perfect. You know, just leather is never that expensive. It's just a material we love experiencing.
I think it's just a good way. You're just letting people know what they're paying for, right? Essentially, which is good to know. And
you
if
make
someone's
the decision.
like, exactly. And if you're like, no problem, that's what I bought it for, right? It's the same material as this bag over here, but it has this name on it, you know, and it has this style, which they don't have, you know, so that's what I'm paying for. Yeah, no, that's a great help actually for people to get over that. You know, knowledge is power, man. And anytime you can have knowledge about this stuff and, you know, going in to buy, which
you can
leather
make better
is always,
decisions.
you make better decisions. And leather's just, again, it's just one of these funky things that people just think they know because they've heard it their whole life, but they really have no clue. And even how to spot what's worth buying. And to, you know, to some extent, does it even matter, right? For the longest time, I didn't really know if these bags were truly whatever. Did it affect how I used them and how I enjoyed them? Not really. Right. But now that I know, it does make it cooler. So at the end of the day, I don't know, right? Like, I think you said it best, right? When you were saying, just smell it, feel it. Do you like it? Is it for you? You know, is that what you're getting off of it? Right. Is that the vibe? You dig it? You know, and I definitely especially love the fact of just so people can get, I also wanted to show these so people can get over the stigma of buying something in a street market, right? Honestly, you're probably more likely to get real leather there. Then they don't have, like, because they don't have the capabilities to give you fake stuff because they don't have machines and this and that. So like, dude, you're getting the real stuff from them.
And they're not going to bother touching those plastic materials, you know. And these are certain places in the world. If you're traveling, just take advantage of that travel. You get some really unique, authentic stuff. If you're in Mexico, I'm sure there's markets like that. It's a bunch of real leather, local stuff. In Spain, in Italy, you go to Florence, there's like thousands of these little shops over there doing great work with Italian leathers, and it's a fraction of the cost because they're small shops. Just go by there.
No, I love that, man. And also, just the last point, like I want to reiterate for people when they're, you know, going on to Etsy or any of these places to buy online, feel comfortable and to also look for what you said. If someone is selling you the real thing, they won't stop talking about it. I think that's a great point because it's like, don't look for what they're saying, look for what they're not saying, right? Essentially. And if they're not talking about the leather, why is that? Right. So that's a great point. That's a great point. So look for that. Look for the person who's passionate about that. It's probably the real thing. Because again, why wouldn't they stop talking about it? Just the same thing with the dish, a chef using a particular dish that has a rare ingredient that that's the hero of the dish.
They're going to mention
stop talking about it. Yeah, they're going to mention it. I promise you. Absolutely. They won't stop talking about it. Exactly. If it's a bad cut of meat, they're going to talk about the sauce. They're going to talk about the side. They're going to talk about, everything but the meat. It's a great distinction, man. I think that's a really key bit of information for people to have that purchasing power. So thank you for that. Listen, man, this was awesome. I super enjoyed this. This was so, I love learning about these things and I love my job. I love hosting a podcast where I just get to talk to interesting people about all kinds of interesting things. And this was just another example of that. This was so cool. Real quick, tell people, Tanner, how they can, look you up, stay in contact with all that stuff, all the different socials and websites.
So My main social channel is TikTok right now. I'm at Tanner.Leatherstein. You can find it on TikTok. We do daily videos, 1 minute, take things apart, or 1 minute bits of leather information, interesting things. And on YouTube, I'm going to start making a little longer versions of this. A minute sometimes not enough to tell everything. So same thing, YouTube, Tanner.Leatherstein is my channel name again. And Pegai.com is my crafts website where I do my take of leather crafts, and out of the leathers I love around the world. If they want to shop for it, it's there.
That's awesome, man. Yes, much respect to you and what you're doing and spreading this knowledge. You have such a good energy about you. You're just coming from this genuine place.
Thank you.
Call back to genuine. I mean that in the right way.
I'm glad they didn't ruin
Yeah,
it in this
yeah.
context yet.
I don't mean like genuine leather. I mean you're the
Yeah.
genuine person.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode with Tanner. Amazing, right? Leather. I'll never look at leather the same. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Stay Lone Star.
You've been listening to the Lone Star Plate podcast with your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong. For more info, go to lonestarplate.show.